Hello explorers and welcome to another video. Today we are going to talk about Blackmagic capture cards. I'm actually running a Blackmagic capture card at the moment, and I'm talking to you to my webcam, to my digital camera through that capture card. And I have newly upgraded to the latest Linux kernel in my system, and my capture card just stopped working. I couldn't build the driver and get it installed in my system. And the driver is installed using something called DKMS, which is this kind of rights management and software that can handle these kind of extensions to your kernel. So I run VirtualBox as well, so that has an extension as well using DKMS. But when I ran the installation of this Debian package, it failed. And I ran out on the internet, of course, looking for a solution. And I found a forum that was talking about the changes that were coming in kernel version 6, and that some of the things had changed name and also had different parameters and so on. So let me switch over to my screen here. These were the changes that were suggested. So you should go into the BMI audio file and pretty much add this block up here. So before it said this, but when you have kernel version 6, you need to have the same kind of function, but the one extra parameter here for it to work. And the same goes down here for the random function in BMUtil. Before you could use this prandom, it's deprecated in the latest kernel, so therefore I added this get random u32 to every kernel version over 6. So these changes were pretty simple. I ran the make and so on that was suggested in that forum, and it still didn't work. I couldn't load it, and what they said in the forum was pretty much, yeah, you developers at Blackmagic need to solve this, and I'm pretty sure that they will look into it. They have already created a new version for Mac and Windows, but the Linux version is still pending. So I needed a solution for my use case at the moment. So I looked further into it, I called a friend and we discussed the matter a bit, and we actually found a solution. So the solution is that we go to this directory here. That's where the source code is, or even there. So this is the source code directory, and then you can make these files, and you need to tell the make script what your kernel release is, because the kernel packages will be used in order to create this KO file, which is a kernel object file that you can load as a module. So these Blackmagic IO code. Then, after I have built this, they have shipped also a tool called DKMS Helper, which could do some post-build steps on this tooling. So this is something that I found in the DKMS config file in the source directory. So not sure if that is required, but I ran it as well in order to do any post-build steps that was needed. Now comes the interesting part. If you load this into your kernel, it will say you have currently both CTARs and init arrays in your objects, so I will not load it in the kernel. And this is something that has been debated in the Linux kernel. Some want both of them to work simultaneously. CTARs were the old way of pretty much mark up constructors and things that you could load when you are running these kind of modules. But it has been deprecated, and they have gone over to init arrays, which has little bit more flexibility and you can define things in a better way. And the kernel maintainer said, okay, we want one of these definitions, but you can't mix and match. So that is what they have implemented in kernel 6. So when I ran kernel 5 before, it just worked fine. It didn't matter that I had this mix. But now with kernel 6, they are more strict and require me to have only one of them. And I found a forum or a blog page where somebody was discussing these kind of issues, and he said, well, just run this object copy and rename these sections for CTORs to init array, and rename also the section of DTORs to fin array, and run that on each file. So what I did was running both of these on the KO file, and both of them changed that, and then I load them into my kernel, and I didn't get the error. So now I can use my webcam. Sadly, when I tried to use the webcam directly before I ran this video, it didn't work. I loaded the module again and it started working. So this is not the perfect solution. It's a workaround. But I still think there are stuff here to learn about the Linux kernel and changes that have been made in the Linux kernel. What you can encounter if you're running a Linux system where you have loaded kernel modules. So I think it's something that could be interesting. I want to remember this if I ever run into any other time. So that's why I made this video. I hope that you found this interesting. I hope that you learned something today. If you like this video, give it a like, share it with your friends and colleagues, and I really hope to see you in the next video.